Okay, hi everyone, I'm Not Wilson, and again, we're here with the Lord of the Rings dice building game. We've set it out so that, well, the focus really isn't on the fact that it's this game so much as we're using the AI, which is the solo system. That's up here in this corner. I'm not sure the video's capturing it or not, but what I need are those blue sleeved cards up there in the corner. And we'll see those in a second because we've got our three players here. One's a scholar and makes choices accordingly. One's a risk taker, also making choices accordingly. And right now, it's the aggressive player who's going to go first. So we have rolled, and we have an active pool of dice, and we have mustered. Who is that? That's Frodo with this sword called Anduril. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm probably a little bit not caught up on my pronunciation for Lord of the Rings. But anyway, Anduril. So here he is with the sword. So what are we going to do? Well, we're aggressive. So there's some question about will we attack or not, because that's the phase that we're in right now. We're in the phase 3 of the player's phase, which says to attack Sauron. We've already mustered, or we can prepare for war. So I could attack. I only get one attack point here on this die. That's the top right corner. See if it'll focus. It doesn't really matter. There we go. So I only get one attack point. So let's go right to it, shall we? This is attached, or at least to say I'm going to attach it. So for those of you familiar with the mechanisms of the game. And let's do it. Up here in the corner, I've got a whole bunch of enemies. You can kind of see them there. I'm not going to try to bring them closer. And I think I'm going to attack. Because I'm aggressive, I think it's probable that he's going to attack. So that's my question. Is Napoleon here, player number 3, going to attack Sauron's mustered enemies? And so what we do is we go to our draw pile, which is right here, and we draw a card, and I think it's probable that he's going to. Okay, I'm not unsure. It's not probably not. Now, if the answer is no, then I think what he's going to do is the less aggressive maneuver, and he's going to prepare these guys for somebody else to use. So let's just flip and see. And there's our answer. I think it's probable he's going to attack, and the answer is under probably yes, he is probably going to attack. But just for the sake of this game, I'll flip a couple more cards. So I could have asked it, and on this one, it was also yes. And on this one, it was also yes. Probably get something else here now. Oh no, still a yes. Hang on. But that's the probability, right? So I decide the probability. Now here, I could have asked the question, I think he's probably going to attack some of the mustered units. And I flip it over, and the answer could have been no. So I would have had to come up with a second solution, which was, in my mind, I was going to prepare these mustered guys for someone else to attack. So under the conditions that I have just set forth, he is attacking, and that's how you use that part of the solo system. Let me quickly do that, and then we'll go up to the scholar, who's at the top of the order there, who's player 2 on this particular round, and let's just find out how he will choose. Okay, so we'll be back in a sec. Okay, so we've done a few things with our scholarly player up here. We did muster Frodo, and we have 4 fellowship points left, so I need to spend those. So there's 2 things that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of either taking the corruption away from Gandalf or purchasing another Even Star. Now the Even Star is an heirloom, and so it just feels rather like a scholarly option, okay? Whereas Gandalf similarly feels like he's sort of a scholar. So I'm not really sure that captures the precise nature of that, but I'm trying to decide between those 2 moves. I can take off the corruption, or I can purchase the Even Star. So I'm kind of unsure. So let's ask the question of, like, which of those 2 would be superior? There's not a lot of corruption, but there is a lot of corruption coming. So I'm going to say that the scholarly move, I don't know, it just feels like the wise move, is to take the corruption off Gandalf the Grey, although I'm unsure. So we ask the question that way. Rather, it's going to fall into the unsure category. So do I take the corruption off using my fellowship points, or do I not? So you flip, and you look at the response under unsure. And the answer is no. I wasn't certain which decision we would take. And so am I going to uncorrupt Gandalf? The answer is no. So that goes here. Gandalf remains corrupt, and I follow my second option, which is to spend 3 of my 4 available points to purchase an even star. There it goes, and my turn is over. Let's have one look here at the risk taker. Okay, so our risk taker, it was pretty self-evident. It almost felt like an aggressive choice, but that made sense. So I had the Arwen die, so I used it to attack, and I also had a Samwise Gamgee. So we attacked, and we actually took out quite a few enemies because of Arwen and her bonus and so forth. So I didn't need to flip any solo AI cards for that. However, now I will, because I am a risk taker. So the question is essentially, what do I want to do that is inherently risky with my 4 fellowship points? Now it feels to me that it would be risky to leave these corrupted. Although we're not gonna have as much corruption as we once were, because we're already down to 2 in Sauron's muster area. So let me think about this. It seems to me that a risky move would be to essentially leave them. Now I could buy something else, but if I buy Anduril or the Even Star, that's low risk because we're not adding any dice to Sauron's pool, to his active pool. So it's riskier for me to spend my 4 points buying something from here because that will add a die to the pool. In fact, it's very risky to get a Gandalf because he's corrupt and I can't even use him yet. But that just seems stupid. That doesn't even seem that risky. So it's going to be Merry and Pippin or a Gandalf, but I'm not even sure I can buy a Gandalf, being that he's corrupt. So I'm gonna spend 3, 1, 2, 3, wherever they are. Here we go, 1, 2, 3. Spend them, and I'm going to pick up a Merry and Pippin die for my pool, and that means that we take one of the 2 towers, Sauron enemies, and he goes into the active area of his dice, and my turn is essentially over. So that was risky. I was following this idea, but at the same time, I wasn't doing, I didn't need to flip any cards. I was just following the advice on the AI here. I didn't have to really ask any questions. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Okay, well, how about this? Instead of going right to Sauron's turn, because now it's supposed to be, it's back to player 1, so it's supposed to be Sauron's turn. But instead of doing that right now, why don't we switch up our sort of our motivation, our personality, not our motivation, but our personality. The solo game says you should do this from time to time. I don't know how many turns it's been, but let's do it. So we'll start with the player who's player number 1 right now, which is aggressive. So basically you just go back to the deck and you have a look. He becomes a specialist. So he's no longer aggressive. Instead now he's a specialist. Again, I don't really know what that means. Maybe that means he will be looking now for one particular type. Maybe he'll be looking for an army, or he'll be specializing on elven gifts and artifacts. I don't know. Maybe it'll be something like that. So let's go up to the top to the scholar and let's see what becomes of him. Same as last. Okay, so no change with the scholar. And we come to the risk taker. Let's have a look and see what they change to. Copycat. That's excellent. Okay, so we'll see how that applies. All right, so that's a little taste of how the solo game plays. I don't think I need to do any more. It just give you guys some indication. As I said, there are 4 decks, and we've only looked at 2 here. We've looked at, I'm not sure what these cards are called, personality cards by the looks of it. And then we've used the sort of decision-making blue back cards up there. So there's 2 other decks we haven't really touched on, but they help you refine some of your decision-making. Anyway, maybe that's useful for you, and you will be a little bit curious about this solo AI that's available to you as print and play. And I think it's also printed out in COW. Isn't that what it's called? But as a Canadian, I don't really bother with buying decks that are printed out that way because they probably cost way too much, and so I don't bother. Anyway, that's it. I'm Not Wilson. Hope you're enjoying your game, and if you need an opponent, consider using the solo system.